It's Trends O'Clock. This is Trends KE with KK Cedrick.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Trends KE. My name is KK Cedrick. Welcome to the show. It's yet another Thursday, and we are here to have an amazing discussion. As always, thank you always for tuning into the show. So tonight, we have a discussion which you are going to enjoy with two beautiful, amazing ladies. We are going to talk about mental health and toxic relations. We have professionals. So if you have any questions, come with your questions to the show. We discuss about that topic, and it will be of great importance because very many people are actually having troubles with mental health, especially as a result of toxic relations or any other. So this is the place that you are going to get all your answers and some counseling as well. Before we get into that, as always, we are going to start with our trending topics for the week. What has been trending for this week? So much has been happening. We might not be able to handle all of it, but a few. And to start us off, in Nairobi, mambo ni tricky sana. People are really trying to survive in this town. If Nairobi was a jungle and someone was to do a Nat Geo documentary on it, it would be something else. But first, I want you to see this guy here who was trying to find survival in Canairo. Let's have a look at this clip.
Trying to survive in Canairo.
That guy just stole in broad daylight. Mabati inatumiwa kwa ujenzi wa barabara in broad daylight, and people were saying, hey, this city is just something else. This city has a bad omen, and I'm talking of a bad omen. I want you to have a look at this bird which has been giving people a very hard time in town. Hii ndege haogopi watu. The bird is roaming in the town like nobody's business. It's bad business here. Look at how that bird is enjoying itself there with the guy. Like wanapiga maraundi yao hapo, hawataki mchezo na mtu. Just peacefully, they are all maintaining their own peace. They don't want anybody interrupting into their business. Just look majestic. And there are other clips that the bird was seen alone, and you don't get in its way. People are very much afraid of it. I don't know why. Something else that I'm going to tell you about. This town has a lot of stuff going around, but then there are good things that are happening. There is some information here from, first let's talk about this guy Omanyala. So Omanyala, the sprinter, yesterday during a gifting ceremony, revealed that the girlfriend, in capital letters, the girlfriend used to pay for their rent and also for his own personal needs. I want you to listen into this clip of what he had to say.
I trained for 6 months and we had no money. Thanks to my girlfriend. She was paying the rent and she was taking for...
Wapi makofi ya mrembo? Makofi tena. Hawa wetu hawa.
Najua sasa kupata ni noma. So email ilishaisha. Sasa unapata zenye zimeraruka tu. So yeah, she was taking care of the bills because she was working.
Makofi ya mrembo tena, she was taking care of the bills. Meanwhile, Mungu aliumba Adamu na hawa wengine, na inasemekana ya kuwa hawa wengine ndio wako tu. For instance, I want you to have a look at this. This is a lady. This is another lady also in Nairobi. They are in a pub, as you can see. Then you'll see that guy exiting. After the guy exits, the guy has exited. Hapa inataka ile interpretation ya DJ Afro. Cheki sasa. Alafu the lady takes what she takes out of her purse, and then in a count of 1, 2, 3, I think I'm late. Hii kazi inafaa kuachiwa DJ Afro, ni yeye tu anaweza. Spike tap. Huyo mubaba anaenda kulala mpaka next year. That is another one. Nairobi. This is also another one. Nairobi. And then lastly, this had to be Eldoret. But then I think that luck was just for Manyala and a few others who need not to be told where to look. And as I told you, we are getting very soon into that conversation that I had for you with our two amazing ladies just in a short while. But first of all, we still have a few things to talk about, like one thing or thing one. They said that politicians won't be allowed to be politicking in church. Meanwhile, there was, I want you to have a look at this clip, which is just coming up here. Yes, that will be up in a short while. Then, sorry for that technical hitch there, but I think you might have seen that is not it. But about that is a friend of mine, Purity Museo. She is crying that actually she works for the national television network. Analia kuna jamaa amemweka kwa nyumba. Just look at that guy. He has very many photos of Purity in his house. Zenye wanapiga nazo selfie. Well, that's very, very freaky of someone to do something like that. Ni kama wale watu wanaweka picha kwa nyumba za a hit list. So Purity is crying. She's saying that she will have to take an action because she doesn't know what that guy is doing with all those photos of her in the house. Then, as I was telling you, they said that there will be no politicking in church by politicians. But who is the deputy president? He told them, mimi kama simba wa UDA, nitaingia kanisani na nitahubiri. But Kenyans will never lack to make fun out of anything and everything for that matter. So that's actually briefly what we had. And there is another one that I would have talked about. Finally, Mulamua. For those of you who know Mulamua, and the wife delivered a baby girl, and then she was rewarded with, how much was that? 100K, 1,000 shillings. They are calling that push gift. Hey, zile terminology zinatumiwa hii town zitatumaliza. Lakini tonight I don't think I will be talking about Arsenal because of what happened over the weekend. Yeah. in the other league. So let's just get into our discussion tonight because, it is what it is. There is a lot of bad omen in this town. So I'll be bringing on board our two beautiful ladies for the discussion that we are having tonight. And we are talking about toxic relations and mental health. So we want to take care of your mental health. And joining us for this conversation tonight, we are having our first guest there, Mariam, and we have Wilkista. They will be joining us tonight, and I choose to be sandwiched between the two amazing ladies. Thank you very much, ladies. Welcome to the show. And Mariam, welcome to the show. First of all, as you introduce yourself and tell us what you do, will you tell us that being a psychologist, umewahi patana na watu and you tell someone you're a psychologist and they ask you, can you tell me what I'm thinking right now? Have you ever encountered something like that? Yes, Mariam.
Yeah, we come across a lot of questions. By the way, you tell someone you're a counseling psychologist, and the first thing that they ask you is, now I have this problem. I think you will help me. Yeah, they assume that being a counseling psychologist means when you look at someone, you'll be able to read their mind and like automatically and all. So it's very, very common, by the way.
Yes. So kindly, before I also introduce our second guest, tell us exactly what you do.
So I'm a counseling psychologist by profession, and
Yeah.
at the moment I'm working with a foundation called Nivishe Foundation, which deals with mental health advocacy, and it's actually Nivishe actually clothes you in 5 ways: psychologically, mentally, emotionally, and also physically.
Wow. Thank you very much for that. And our second guest that we are having on the show, we have Wilkista. She'll be telling us her full names and what she does as well. And I also have another question to start with Wilkista as you introduce yourself. Being a psychologist, do you ever use that for your own personal benefit? Tuseme kama umepatana na jamaa na anajaribu kurusha mistari, then you look at the way they are behaving, you say this one is so hyper, looks like he might be a psycho, so itabidi wewe umetembea. Do you ever use it in that way?
Personally, sijaijaribu hiyo, but it can
Yes.
happen in most situations. Like, when you are a psychologist, you easily understand people, or you can easily relate their behaviors. So yeah, you can. Okay, psychology is really helpful when you are interacting with people. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So what do you do on your side? Can you let us know before we start this?
So I'm Wilkista Msanga, a psychologist and a mental health advocate. I also work with Nivishe Foundation. And as Mariam said, we advocate for mental health and create mental health awareness, also providing psychosocial support.
Wow, that's an amazing task, especially at this time in the society. Very many people have mental health issues, which are supposed to be dealt with, especially in relationships. And these relationships range from partners, that's romantic relationships, to family, to workplaces, and there is toxicity everywhere. And I'll start with a question to you, Mariam. Hi, and my first question will be, what would trigger toxicity, someone to become toxic? For instance, let's take an example of a relationship, romantic relationship. What will trigger someone to become toxic in a relationship if this someone was not toxic in the first place?
Yeah, so I mean, being toxic, first, if we try to understand what is the meaning of toxic, because many
Yes.
people would ask you, what is toxic? What is being toxic, and how can you identify That's how someone is toxic in a relationship. So
Yes.
actually, a toxic relationship, when you're in a toxic relationship, you would feel that you're unsupported, demeaned, and all these negative feelings that you get, and it is constantly they keep on coming up in a relationship, and then they're usually followed up by toxic behaviors. Toxic behaviors would be things like jealousy, a lot of negative feelings, and then self-centeredness, where someone is just thinking about themselves, or this person you're in a relationship is selfish, and then also being critical. Like, you just never do anything right. Everything you do is just wrong. They keep on criticizing you, they put you down, they keep on demeaning you. And then also we have also distrusting. Like you've met these people who just don't trust people. Everything you do they question. Yeah. And then they're also
Yes.
abusive. And abuse could be physical, emotional, even physical abuse. Yeah. So when you're in a
Yeah.
physical abusive relationship, that's a very toxic relationship for you. And then another thing is also disrespect. Yeah. When
Disrespect.
yeah, when they keep on disrespecting you, and it's constant, like it's just, like a train,
Yeah.
like it's constant, then it becomes very toxic, and then it brings a lot of negative energy, like maybe 80% negative negativity is in the relationship, and then the good times are like 20%.
And you've talked about jealousy. Jealousy
Yeah.
in which perspective? Because some people think when you are jealous about them, then that means you love them more.
No, there is a line. You've met these people who, let's say for example, you're working with them, and then
Yes.
you get looked at by another person, and it becomes a problem. Why is he looking at you? Like, how do you know him? Yeah, and it
Yeah. And
becomes really big, like fights and all, violence. That's a very
okay.
toxic. Yeah.
Yeah, in a circumstance where you personally don't have control over it. And
Hmm.
let me bring in Wilkista into this discussion.
Yes.
Wilkista,
Yeah.
you're also a psychologist. So, in that perspective of psychology, would
Yeah.
someone do something uh, that is toxic without them personally knowing that this thing can hurt another person? Like watu wengi huwa wanajitetea anasema nilifanya lakini si kujua. Will someone do something that is toxic without personally being aware of exactly that they are hurting someone else?
Yeah, they can. You see, in terms of maybe when someone is experienced childhood traumas, and they carry that to their current relationship. So you find that when someone was young, he was emotionally neglected, or he he was in an environment where there was physical abuse, verbal abuse. So this man or a girl was raised in an environment where there was violence, and it was okay in their family. So like there was no boundaries, behavior boundary in their family. So like they grew up knowing that violence is allowed, and that's what they do. When they are maybe in a relationship with someone, they'll bring in violence because that's what they have been raised in. So unless there's someone to intervene for them and tell them that this is wrong, yeah, they'll proceed doing it because that's how they were raised. So childhood traumas do exist.
Yeah, and would these traumas lead? There is a condition that someone told me someone would grow to become either a narcissist or a psycho. Like they just don't care whether they are, even if they are hurting someone, they don't feel about it. Mtu anaweza kukukata, anaona damu yako inatoka, you are crying, and they ask you like, why are you crying? It's only blood. Why are you crying about just blood coming out of your body? So would someone who is a psycho, is it something that would also have grown into them, growing up as a child, or is it something that is it behavior that grew into them as they were growing up, or is it a condition in which someone is just born and they can do nothing about it?
Yeah, it
It
can be
is.
behavior. It can be either behavior or genetics. So, in terms of behavior, this is where a child or someone, when growing up, you grew up in this environment where everyone was toxic, or there was violence, or maybe in school, or to be specific, in your family, maybe your dad or your mom or someone you grew next to was very violent. So, you grew up with that behavior in you, like you see them doing it, and that's what you grow up with. So in the future, a person will exactly do the same thing, because they have grown doing it, and they have seen maybe their parent, their mom or dad or uncle doing it, and it was okay for them. So it can be either behavioral learned or genetics.
Oh, so it's something that someone can grow into. They are just born. And I want you to help us here, Mariam. Let's say
Yeah.
this is someone who has been born with that condition, is just that psycho condition, or with narcissistic tendencies. Ni mtu anaweza umiza mwingine saa yote. So is this something which uh, in a situation where, let's say, the guy with that condition, it's a man, and then they are in a relationship with this lady. The lady never knew. She gets to learn about it along the way. What would you advise her? Should you stay with this person who is a psycho, uh, or should you just call it quits? And if you are staying, how can you help them change? And can they actually ever change, because it's something that they were born with?
Actually, you see, like something like narcissistic personality disorder, it's a disorder. It's like, you see, the way we go to the doctor for these other sickness like malaria, da da da. For this one, it's like a mental disorder, like the mind is sick itself. Yeah, and
Yes,
nobody is
and
born with
kindly
it. Yeah.
before you proceed, just for those of our audience who are not actually getting what the narcissistic disorder is all about, kindly you can try and explain what it's about.
Okay, so this narcissistic personality disorder is NPD, and usually it's a mental disorder where someone feels like they're more important than everyone else. And they
I
have this
think
constant and they feel like they're important than they actually lose energy. Sorry?
yes. We lost
Yeah,
you
they
there for a little. You
actually
can
feed
proceed.
on other people's energy.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was saying this is a disorder where someone feels like they're important than everyone else. So they actually feed on other people's energy. So for them to be okay, it means they have to demean other people or put other people down for them to feel better about themselves. So they actually
Yeah,
feed on
and
people for either power or yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah,
You can help
and
there.
nobody is born with NPD. So
You can help us there, Wilkista, as we try to work here on her connection.
yeah, or something to add on. People with narcissistic personality disorders, they are very manipulative, and they'll always make you feel guilty or blame you for everything. Like, even if it's their mistake, they'll make it look like it's you who has done the wrong, or who is wrong. So they're very manipulative, and they'll always drain you. So they feel good or energized when they're manipulative, or when they blame someone for their action. So that's what makes them feel good.
So someone of that kind, is it someone whom you can say, I want to work on them so that they can change their behavior, and in the process, you are getting hurt, or do you just call it quits? Can you try and help them to change?
Yeah, you can, if you're willing, but it's not something easy. Okay, unless you can refer them to a psychologist or a therapist, and maybe they'll work with him or her. But okay, working with them or being with them in a relationship, it can be really draining because they'll be hurting you more and more, apologizing, and they repeat the same thing. Okay, so like it will be like a pattern. They hurt you, they apologize, they hurt you, they apologize, and the more this thing happens, the more it's traumatizing, like it's emotionally draining for the other partner, and it becomes really toxic.
So the best thing is to call it quits.
Yeah, or refer them for help. Then after he gets well, you can get back together. Like it's something you can agree. So I don't feel like this relationship is really working for me because of this and this and this. But if you can get help from a therapist and you get better, I'm willing to stay or to wait. And after you get better, we can get back together. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yes, thank you very much for helping us there. We lost you a little bit, Mariam, because of your connection. I think you are back and can hear us. You can hear us now?
I can hear you now, yes.
Yeah, okay. So I have this question here as a follow-up because Wilkista helped us answer on what someone can do in a situation where they are in a relationship with this person who has psycho tendencies. And she has told us you can either refer them to a professional, or if you can't manage it, call it quits. So let's say you are in that situation where you have been in a toxic environment, workplace, family, a toxic family, or toxic partner, and then you have decided to walk out, or you are still in it and you are depressed. You can't afford a counselor. And what exactly are you supposed to do at that time? Now, this is now where I want you to help us with some counseling. What is someone supposed to do? Because most people will head into drinking. And I was just looking at some meme. I think we lost you again. Some meme where someone is saying that wewe umevunjwa roho na unakunywa pombe nyingi. Sasa maini, mbona unaumiza mahini na ni roho inaumia? Mambo ya
Yeah.
roho, achia roho.
Achia roho.
Usilete maini hapo na pombe nyingi, because many people get into drinking. Some
Yeah.
also, if it's for the sake of a partnership, like a romantic relationship, others will go for a rebound. Is
True.
that the best way to handle an issue such as this, from being depressed and having a mental problem? What's the best way someone can handle this?
The best way someone can handle this, if you can't afford a therapist, okay, at least I know there are some organizations or places where if you can go explain your situation, they'll offer you counseling services on pro bono. Like they'll understand you can't afford you can't afford the charges, or something else. Or what someone can also do, you can do self-care, like you take care of your mental health. You have to accept that the relationship is over, or whatever happened, and things have to move on. But it doesn't mean like because you broke up with the boyfriend today or last week, like you're going to move on immediately, or you're going to heal immediately. Healing is a process, and it may take a long time. So it depends with you on how you're going to handle the issue. So first, it's good to first know where the problem is. When you identify the problem, you actually understand why you left the group or why he left you. So you'll know, so this and this happened, and I'm okay with it. Like you acknowledge the problem. After acknowledging the problem, you start working on yourself. Give yourself some time to heal, accept whatever happened, take care of your mental health. You see, like when people break up in relationships, most people rush to alcohol, or someone will break up with someone today and tomorrow or next week they're in another relationship. That's not really helping. That simply means they're suppressing their emotions. Like they really don't want to feel the pain of whatever happened. They're trying to suppress the emotions, and the more you suppress your emotions, the more they build up, and one day or someday you're going to have a mental breakdown. Ndio unapatanga mtu ameanza kutembea kwa njia, anajiongelesha peke yake, like you just meet someone on the way and they're talking to themselves because of their piled emotions. They're not able to express the emotions, ama they didn't speak out on whatever, they didn't deal with whatever happened the way it's supposed to be dealt with. So it's very important to take time for yourself, accept what happened, acknowledge the problem, and if you can speak to a friend or if you can get counseling services, please do. It's really helpful.
Yes, welcome back, Mariam. And Wilkis was just helping us there to on how someone can come out of maybe they are in a toxic relationship or they have just broken up with someone, and many will go to alcohol and na wanasema maini na roho aziendani. You have to treat your heart first. So in this situation where you are trying to heal, and I hope you are still getting us. How long exactly would this take someone? You will kiss amesema hapo 2-3 days haufai kuwa you are moving fast into another relationship. Does it have actually a timeline? When will it not be a rebound if you have just moved out of another relationship? 3 weeks, 1 month, 4 years? Wilkista, I think we lost
No,
William again.
the healing process depends with the person, and it can, for some people, it can take even to like maybe 5 years, 1 year, 2 years, 5 months. So it depends with how adjustable you are, or how fast adaptive you are to the situation. But yeah, so it varies from one person to the other. So we can't really specify that this is the period that the healing process is going to take. So it depends with you how you process the information, if you really acknowledge and accepted the situation. So, but once you accept the situation, it's really easy to move on.
Yes, and I'll be following up with another question. Let me just see if our audience here has some questions. Thank you very much for those of you who have tuned in. You can send your questions if you have any in regards to the topic that we are discussing, and we are having Gertrude get there tuned in from Jordan. Better late than never. Thank you very much for tuning into the show. We have a very huge audience here tuned into the show, and we have Aishwarya Shocked. That's a friend tuned in all the way from India. If a relationship is toxic, just stop there. Even if they change in future, it will affect so badly. Yes, for her, she says, if kama ni mbaya, wacha iishe hivyo. Aishwarya, what I said is yes. Someone help me translate that in English. The weekly vibe with Marcia Chieng. Wilkista, how would you advise a person who heals, say after a year, then gets back to zero, like nothing happened? Yani huyu mtu after mwaka akiona tu picha ya jamaa ai asharudi zero. How would you advise someone of that kind, Wilkista?
Kurudi zero means she still thinks about him, ama she doesn't think about him.
Like, I think from what I'm understanding from that statement, ni kama like you break up with someone and then after a year, what you are feeling from the breakup, like today, after a year, it recurs again. You are in the process of healing and then inarudi. Ni kama kidonda.
Yes, that it's a relapse. It's a relapse. So that simply means you didn't heal fully, or you didn't accept the situation or what happened in when you broke up. Ile ulikuwa unajiambia nime move on, but you didn't fully move on. So when after a year, or she said after a year. So after a year, you see him and you start feeling the same thing you felt before. So that simply means haku move on. So she needs to accept that or whatever they had didn't work out, and it happened for a reason. Like, life has to move on, and there are better things ahead.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
very much for helping answer that question. And we have Mariam back. So let me try to move ahead in this discussion. Mariam, welcome back. And I want to ask you one
Thank you.
question.
Yeah.
There are people who have issues with first space and then dominance in a relationship. So someone feels like they should be at a certain level than the other person. So in the sake of such people, how are they supposed to address a situation where someone feels like the other partner is trying to be more dominant in relationship than them, and they feel that they have to be dominant, and that in its own way would lead to some toxicity in that
Yeah.
relationship?
True. So what I would
Yeah.
advise someone who's feeling like the other person is trying to be more dominant in the relationship is to communicate. Yeah, you communicate to this person, because at times the other person is not aware of their behavior. In psychology, there is something we call the Johari's window. It's a concept in psychology, and the window, the way it is itself is, there are things that other people know about you that you don't know about yourself. So awareness
Yeah.
is very important. You might bring to this person attention that, hey, this is what I feel. I feel like you're trying to do this and this. So if communication doesn't work, we can the person can move to setting boundaries, because dominance come with some sort of behavior. If I feel like the dominant one in the relationship, how it affects you is how I behave. So if you set boundaries, clear boundaries and healthy boundaries, you'll end up not being affected by my dominance, because at the end of the day, it's how you allow other people to affect you. It's everything to do with you at the end of the
Yes.
day as a person. Yeah.
So it depends on it all has to do with you, and trying to make a mutual understanding that you want someone to come this close to you in that space of dominance, the way you will refer to it. And another
Yes, you
follow-up question.
communicate.
Yeah, and
Yes.
also the things that you allow and the things that you don't allow. Because with dominance, I mean, where we have a victim, I mean, where we have, how can I put it? In We have a victim and the other person is called a what? The other
The
person, yeah,
dominant.
exactly. Yeah. So for a victim to be a victim, it means the victim has allowed this other behavior to be done on him or her. So when you set healthy
Yes.
boundaries, this other dominant person cannot affect you. You understand?
Yeah,
Because
I
you
get it.
just don't allow it to happen. It's what you
Yeah,
allow and what you don't allow at the end of the day.
it depends
Yeah,
on
and
what you allow. Yeah,
Yeah.
Wilkista, you can go ahead.
just to add on, and you find that most of the victims, they're very passive and they trust easily. So the dominant person can easily use them or dominate, because they don't normally speak out and they trust easily. So whatever the dominant person says, they'll go with it. So that's how the dominant person will dominate so easily.
And where do you draw the boundary between seeing that someone is dominating over you and just agreeing because you think like there is, let me not say a leadership role, but you actually agree with what this person is saying, and then the aspect where everything that this person is saying, you agree to it. Where do you draw the line?
If I can just answer that, Cedric, you
Yes.
see, we have two types of victims. Let me
Yeah.
say, there is a victim that is not aware they are a victim, and then we have one that is aware, hey, this is happening, but wachana tu na yeye tu. It's okay, I can handle it. So the most dangerous, the most not dangerous, the one who is more in danger is the one who is not aware, and we call them codependents. And actually, these codependent people, they're the ones who narcissistic people feed on, because at the end of the day, they need this other energy for them to be okay. So the
Yeah.
way a narcissistic person has personality disorder of feeding on other people's energy to be okay, a codependent person, who usually are victims, will also need, for them to exist well, they'll need a narcissistic person in their life. True story. Because these are people who are insecure.
No, so
Yeah,
actually, literally, these are two sick people who are
true.
depending on each other.
On each other. Yeah,
Is it
yeah.
something that is bad, or is it good for these two to be together?
No,
It's a
it's not
very bad thing.
good.
It's a dangerous thing actually,
Yes,
because these are
very
two sick
dangerous.
people who are living together. So unasikia situations where maybe unapata mtu is an abusive, let's say marriage, or even parents abusive relationship, maybe their parents are narcissistic ama their spouse are narcissistic, lakini ukiambia huyo mtu toka hapo, they'll just never toka, because these people are
Actually,
codependent. Yeah,
and
that's what
actually,
they need.
before I ask another question, which I had on
Yeah.
that, I just want you to make me understand. This is one sick person who wants energy to feed on. This is another sick person who just wants to give their energy. They want someone to be dominant over them. So how is that? I think in a layman's language, someone will say they are helping each other.
Is it
Sort
really
of.
helping? I don't think if
Yes,
it's
yes,
really helping. Maybe the
yes.
narcissistic person is the one who is really benefiting, because the other person, the passive person is giving more, and the narcissistic person is feeding on her energy. Let me use an example of him. So he's feeding on her energy. So the victim is not aware of what's happening. You see, like she's naive. She's kind of naive, and so the other person, the narcissistic person, is the one who's really benefiting, and the victim, she's not aware of what's happening, but she's giving her all.
And
So it's
okay,
a give take.
thank you for saying you have had just to use him, because it's not always him who's always feeling on the energy. It can be either. Yes,
Yeah, it
that's
can be
right.
either. Yeah, true.
Yes, it can be either. And that's where you had hinted on something that I wanted to ask about, Mariam, where someone is in an abusive relationship, literally abusive, both psychologically and also physically, but they are not living. And
Yeah,
these are people whom, on one hand, you will see if they are married, the society is saying there should be no divorce. On another hand, there is someone who is free, they are not married, they are not engaged, but they keep going back. Is this another condition, or it's just out of love?
that is someone
Married.
who's not mentally healthy. Because
Yes.
when you're mentally healthy, you will not be in a position to be in such a relationship. You will choose your mental health. Like your mental health will be more important to you than the relationship. So if when I say this is someone who's not mentally healthy, it could be other conditions like you see, like codependence. There's a codependent person has a lot of things that she's suffering from, like
Yeah.
insecurity, low self-esteem. You see, all these things which which means that you're not mentally healthy will contribute to you sticking to that relationship. But a person who has a very good mental health will not stay in an abusive relationship. Like they just can't, they
So,
won't even be able to to be there.
so someone
Yeah.
who keeps going back where they are abused is sick and should seek mental help.
There
Let's
is
call
like
it
a
mental help.
problem there. Yes.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
like a problem, and you find that most of these people
Yes.
who don't to get away, or who stick with their abusive partners, you find that maybe they have fears, like they're afraid of being abandoned or being alone, starting a life on their own. Maybe poverty, they're like, maybe this guy's the provider, then she's like, oh, okay, he or a she, then he's like, if I leave, what's going to happen? Maybe I'm jobless, so that will mean I'll like I have nowhere to start from. I have to start from zero, or poverty, or their parents or their family is not understanding. So they're like, if I leave this house or this relationship or this marriage, I'll have nowhere to stay. So those are some of the factors that make people stay in abusive relationships.
Yes, thank you very much. And this is an interesting conversation, although time is really not on our side. Let's try and get some from our audience. And there are so many people tuned in. Hey, let me see if any have questions. That's Vujeri Mandela Nelson, our good lawyer. They're tuned in from Nakuru. Thank you very much, Mandela. Referred by Debbie. That's Golda. Okay, so thank you very much for tuning in. Moise Bridge Kapkoi is tuned on board. Thank you very much. Watching from Kino, Sansana. There, I think she was trying to clarify here. And then we have a shock. It can be years, but if you talk to your loved ones, like friends or family, it will be it will heal somewhat. And just one quick one there, Mariam, this issue of talking to people, it's tricky because some people don't even trust their own friends, so they will not tell them what they are going through.
Yeah.
Niaje ni poa sana, and deep inside someone is hurting big time. So in that case where someone is not really open to talking to other people, is there any other way they can help themselves without talking to other people?
Yeah, actually, we have because when we talk about toxic relationship, it can happen even at work. Like your boss can be very toxic and all.
Yeah.
So there are very many ways of dealing with stress. Very healthy way of dealing with stress, not the unhealthy ways like drugs and all. So we have something like taking a walk,
Yeah.
running. Some people even singing in the shower can help them release all this stress and all. And then also, if even writing is very therapeutic, we have people who keep diaries. They just note down all the things they feel and all, and then they feel better afterwards. But then if you feel like all these other minor ways of dealing with these issues is not enough, and again you can't trust the people you live with or friends, that's when we advise you to go and seek a more professional way. So you go see a counselor. You go talk to a professional, someone at least. If you feel like it's not enough, like maybe running, exercise, music for some people also is very therapeutic. Yeah, so these are some of the small ways that someone can help themselves with.
Yeah, maybe to
Yes.
add one, we also
Yeah.
have the empty chair technique, where you take an empty chair, you put it in front of you, and you address it. Like, maybe if it's Cedric who did something wrong to you, so you assume he's sitting on the chair and you address him. You say whatever you feeling, and after all that, you'll feel relieved, and yeah, you'll be okay. Yeah, so whatever works
And
for you, you, you should try it out.
yes. Thank you. Thank you. Our time is really running very fast. Kuna mtu hapa ameuliza kama cheating in a relationship is also being toxic. A quick one there.
No, toxic behaviors are behaviors that I mentioned earlier: jealousy, demeaning someone, disrespecting them, being critical, abusing them either physically, mentally, emotionally, intentionally. Cheating is
But
not part of.
I
Yeah,
think cheating is just all those things that you mentioned.
But
not really.
there must be
No,
a reason as to why someone cheats. Like, you can't just cheat from the blues. There must be something that made you cheat. So yeah, it depends.
Wow.
you
Thank
can
you very
cheat
much.
and then now you become toxic, maybe.
Okay, or the other person becomes toxic because you cheated.
Toxic.
So
You cheat.
it
Yeah,
will
yeah.
stem out of it, but it's not the main cause of it.
No.
I now
Or
get
maybe
you. And I think we will need to wind up. Time has really run very fast. So very many people are tuned in from all over. We have Shirukim there is tuned from Nairobi, very educative show. And Paul Kinudia is always tuned in. We have Debbie there who is tuned in. Though late, thank you very much for tuning in. We have Job Simba. We are listening from Nyanchwa Barracks, Kisii. Asanteni sana to all those who have tuned into the show. Kindly follow our platforms, The Alternative Voice, on all social media platforms. And let me have your last takes, kindly, because I think we will have to have another session on this, because I can see there's so much engagement, but the time is really not on our side. So I'll start with you, Mariam, on this, the whole issue perspective of mental health in the relationships, workplace, family, whatever. Many people neglect their mental health, and they really want to think they are okay, tell everyone they are okay, or try to suppress their feelings, or find a distraction to get away from the suffering that is actually happening. What would you tell someone who is going through something that they are afraid to address?
What I would tell them is they're actually just putting a bandage on a wound that is not healed. Yeah, the only way you would take care of your mental health is healing. So distractions cannot help you if you feel like your mental health is not okay. And some people won't realize if their mental health is not okay. There are signs, because most people wouldn't know if they're okay or not, because within our society, mental health is associated with, machizi ama umerogo, something that is just out of
Yes.
yeah. But mental health is actually something very simple that people go through on a day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simple things like stress can distract your mental health, just normal things. Yeah. And one of the
Yeah.
ways you know your mental health is not okay is through your, we actually, the mind has six actually functions: thinking,
Yes.
signaling, behavior, all these things. So when one of these things is distracted, and you'll know as a person, then you know your mental health is not okay. The way you're thinking, the way you're perceiving things, are you able to perceive things well, ama you're struggling to get things? Mtu akikuja kukuambia hivi unaichukulia vingine, it could be a sign of stress. You see, even the way you think, all these things, your behavior. Maybe when mtu ulikuwa umezoea, in the morning you're active, you go take a shower, nini nini, all of a sudden you don't even have the energy to get out of bed or to do anything, or even to brush your teeth or take care of yourselves. If you used to meet your friends every weekend, unaji-isolate, unajipata you don't want, umepotea, watu wakuoni. There is a reason to why you're behaving the way you're behaving, and the reason is your mental health is not okay, and the only solution is to seek help.
Yeah.
Hawezi jisaidia na huwezi kanini, huwezi kajidistract, itarudi tu. There has to be a solution for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what
Thank
I
you.
would tell people is to stop putting bandages on their wounds. They should actually heal the wounds for them to be okay at the end of the day.
Yeah, and take to heal the wounds and not hide them and distract
No.
themselves. So, Wilkista, your last take for people who are really struggling with their relationship, either with family, workplace, or their romantic relationship with their partners. They are sensing toxicity, but then they don't know how they are supposed to address the actual issue in that circumstance. Kindly, as your last take.
Yeah, anyone who's going through or sensing toxicity in any kind of relationship, first of all, you have to find the root cause of the problem. After you're aware of the problem, then you can communicate to the person you need to pass the information to. Because if there's no communication, things like the other person or the other party will not be able to understand you, what you want or what you feel. So communication is the key. And my last take on mental health, kindly everyone, please take care of your mental health. It's very necessary. Unaona sahi, like most people are taking away their lives, and this September is Suicide Awareness Month. So we are really advocating for mental health. Like if you need to speak to someone, please reach out. there's someone always who is willing to listen to you or
Yeah.
practice positive mental health. Yeah, it's
Thank you.
very necessary.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for everyone who has tuned into the show. It has been a pleasure hosting you too. And this is a very great discussion that has a lot of interest. I hope if I call upon you next time, you'll be able to come on board and help us address mental health is something that is affecting so many people. Some don't know, some know, and they don't want to address it. So thank you very much, everybody. Those of you who have advertisements, please visit our platforms and inboxes at The Alternative Voice. On all social media platforms, you can also follow us and like our pages. Thank you for tuning in to the show. See you next week. My name is KK Cedrick.
It's Trends O'Clock. This is Trends KE with KK Cedrick.